calls. Also, we've moved over to Notion. So, you know, the agendas that I used to have before the meditation retreat were in Clarity. So, um, where where have you been putting the agenda for the calls? Have you just been using the the calendars or the backlog, the tasks in Notion as the way to drive that?
No, agendas have been there's a meeting page on Notion just after the task page, and that's where agendas are.
Okay. Okay. So um, clearly, everybody, we're kind of in a transitionary phase with some of this stuff. So please bear with us. I think what we can do to start is just a regular check-in. Blanca, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Gideon. I am fine. Um, yeah, my intention with this call is to share um, some of my thoughts on particular on this side of not only being always and close our doors to other communities and other chains, and thinking that if we are a shelling point for the token engineering field, we can also embrace other chains that are also doing token engineering, and somehow that way we can make wider our area of impact and wider our community, and also know more about other tooling. So I think this idea of maybe looking to other chains and expanding to other chains, it's a good idea. It's just like my intention in this call. And my distraction is that maybe I have to run um, past the half of the hour before because I have another appointment. But yeah, I want to share with you, and nothing. I'll pass it to Tam.
My intentions are just to follow along, see, observe, listen in, but also help where I can. I do have to leave at the top of the hour as well. And my distractions are, I'm just basically headphones in, listening, almost like a podcast. I'm also making dinner, but I'm here and present and they're paying attention. And I'll pass to Nate.
Thanks, Tam. Intentions are to walk through this agenda, see where we can prioritize your next efforts in the projects area, and distractions. None currently, just having my morning coffee. So I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Yeah, intention is just to see what tasks we're going to have for the next sprint, and yeah, just follow along. Distractions. I need to buy a new laptop, which is going to cost me an arm and a leg because I'm getting into 3D software, so I definitely need a more powerful computer for the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, that's kind of stressing me out. But apart from that, yeah, doing fine. I'll pass it to Bear if Bear hasn't gone already.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, intentions also go through this new ceremony for the first time. Distractions, not many at the moment, fully present. So I'll just pass it on to Isaac.
Cool, thanks. Intentions pretty much the same. I think it's really important that first, this is also pretty new for me, so I'm pretty excited to see how it goes. And also think it's really important that we start building a proper backlog to keep working and to have a direction. Yeah, just that distractions not at the moment. And I think everyone else has gone. So back to you, Gideon.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, so I think that today, this may be a shorter call, we'll see. But so I have a couple of kind of process things that I'm thinking about as we're thinking about this backlog. And NT is our resident agile, and Tam actually is our resident agile experts. You know, as I'm thinking about backlog, I can't help but think kind of at like the task level, but also the project level. And so that's one of the things that I'd like your guidance on is I've got this doc. Okay, so first of all, let me bring up, I'm going to just share my screen so you all can see what I'm seeing here. Okay, so can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. So, in addition to the existing backlog of tasks that we have, as part of this agreement here, there's this doc that I'm working on that we touched on earlier in the week. I've made good progress on it. I don't think it's a good idea to spend the day today going through those kind of new potential, I'm calling it a project prospectus. It's like a listing of like potential projects that we can work on. The question is, you know, how do we integrate these kind of more tasks with these kind of like potential projects and the tasks that are underneath that?
I'll just give my take, but I would really love to hear how Tam thinks about it. But from my perspective, once we have a project that's, I guess we can say it's approved that we agreed to work on, then we would just have tasks related to different projects, and those tasks should be prioritized in terms of how you think it's more appropriate to deliver them. So right now the backlog is pretty much the grants program, the grants round. There's some tasks for the first round to finish the first round, and then some other tasks to start the second round. And the same way would be if there's one project for the AI stuff. It would just be some tasks in there in the backlog, and you would put them um, depending on how you see priority and how can we work with all of them at the same time.
Okay. Anybody? Tam, do you have any thought? I mean, that makes sense to me. Any other thoughts?
There's some things we can do to maybe optimize the template that we're using here. But yeah, exactly what NT said. I would say we divide it by projects and then have individual tasks underneath the projects. And then we can manage some of the views to see what we want to see. I don't know that this is the best. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is we're doing some of these like working sessions that should probably be like 1 or 2 people in this very wide format where there's a lot of people involved. And I think maybe we can do them in smaller, like smaller teams and then bring it to the team at the end, if that makes sense. But I'd be happy to spend time with NT and put together a proposal and then share it with the wider team, and even maybe start putting the backlog together with you, Gideon, and then we could sort of bring it to the team when it's done instead of working on it in progress while we have 5, 6, 10 people on a call together.
Yeah. So first of all, yes, that totally makes sense. It would be great if you and Auntie can get together to talk about the process. I think that'd be awesome. And then I think one of the questions about the project prospectus, maybe there's a better term for that, but is that I think it is a document that will require input from a variety of different people with different areas of expertise. And I think one of the things that we're still trying to figure out, honestly, is how we go about making these prioritization decisions about what we focus on first. I will definitely come in with some perspective on what I think is the priority in terms of timing and stuff like that, but I think that we haven't quite figured out how that works yet. So, yeah.
Just to jump in quickly, I think I answered a different question though. Do you mean like the list of projects that you shared or potential projects that we could work on in our last call, and how do we determine which one of those to work on?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. I can. Yeah, I think it's super tempting to bring that up right now, but I think that that's probably not going to be the best use of our time, like bringing everybody into that. But I do think that like okay, so let me just share this real quick. My assumption going in on this, I'm thinking that I share that as a document, and people who are interested and feel like they have some perspective on these various projects can weigh in async on the document itself. I think that's probably going to be the most efficient way of doing that. That way it can be broadly shared, and we don't have to spend a whole bunch of time like outlining all this stuff in a meeting. And then we somehow take that. This is the question for me right now: is how do we go from that feedback to a prioritized list of projects that we're going to work on over the next few months?
I would probably think of it as a proposal, like just as any other proposal. And people write up proposals. They are up on the forum for a few days for feedback, and then if that's your proposal, you execute. You just make the decision. And so I think it's important that you take your place as the client, I guess. And after receiving feedback, if you consider that's important and you have introduced all the feedback into the document and the projects, then you just have to scope them down and see what needs to be done, and then we just work on it. So like I don't know if you consider after feedback that the most important thing to work on is the AI stuff, you may as well just start building some tasks to work on it, and we just incorporate them into the sprint.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, okay. So I mean, that's one approach. I mean, one approach is basically do kind of what I've been doing all along with proposals is do a first round feedback to the coordination team and the contributors basically. So like Tam, Libya, Griff, the Tuesday crew, Wonka. Open it up to that first round of feedback, and then incorporate that, and then put that up onto the forum and get that feedback, and then use that basically to just make the decision, and then come back to the coordination team and say, hey, here's the order of the projects. What do people think about that?
I probably just wouldn't put it on the forum. I guess depending on the stage or the proposal or the proposals, I guess. Because I have the sense most of them have already been mentioned in some form on our funding proposal. So I think it's more a matter of right now. It's more a matter of us organizing what we promise rather than proposing new things. And if that's the case, probably it's a bit overkill to spend a lot of time putting it in front of a lot of people, because that's essentially the same.
I also want to add, Gideon, you are connected to the most different factions, and I'd say, I think that we invest a lot of faith in your perspective on what the priorities are, and so perhaps doing advice process and bring advice process with the coordination team and with a handful of other people, I think that, you know, you can make a proposal for what our priorities should be, and then we just execute on them. Maybe that would be another good way to go forward.
So I think the thing that is where I'm getting, I just need to clarify is when we've used the term proposal a couple of times, and when you and Isaac are using the term proposal, are you saying like a formal proposal, or are you saying just like a document that's like, you know, that we all, do you know?
I'm not. I mean, suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And Isaac, it's clear that what you're saying is not a proposal in the sense of like, well, clearly not something we vote on, but not even something that goes up on a form.
Yeah, I guess more like an internal proposal, maybe
Okay.
we could say, but just some document as a reference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and once it's hashed out, I don't think there's anything negative about, hey, here's our priorities for this next, 3-month period as a like FYI to the community so that they can, also provide feedback. But I think this is one of the instances where the people that are closest to the question should be the people making decisions about the question at hand, specifically, what is it that this group should be working on? And that feedback from the on the forum is super important, but I think a lot of people who just read the forum don't have the full context that many of the people in this room do.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with that. What? Any other perspectives on this before we move on? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. I'm going to go forward with that assumption. There will be this document. I'm hoping, like I'm talking with Nate later today to get the latest on the curation service and Shelling Point. And then with that done, I think this document will be ready to share probably like on Monday. And then we'll use that to then basically get us set up for the sprint that comes after this. So, given that, thanks for the input. Isaac, what's the best way to drive this backlog for the current sprint, and just making sure that we've got this stuff in there?
I think really what's more important is that we look at the work we're doing and find what else we need to do, because quite frankly, most of the things we have up there are already pretty close to being done, and so we don't really have much to work on next week. And so yeah, just having something planned for next week and not have all of us, like last minute try to think of what to do or what's needed. At least for this time. Hopefully we get more organized in the structure for other sprints, but right now we just have to figure out what to work on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so well, it's unfortunate because actually we could. I mean, there are some of the things in the other projects that we could pull forward into this. But okay, let's go through what we've got right now. Let's just make sure, absolutely sure, that we have everything done with the grant program. Should we do that and just make sure that that's all covered? Is there anything that anybody sees that is not up here right now that we need to make sure that we do?
I just have a question about the grant program. Perhaps or Isaac, you can answer it. But in terms of distribution of the 25K matching pool, considering the low turnout in terms of the amount of donors and the percentage of funds, are we obligated to spend that entire 25K? And if not, then should we? And I think that's yeah.
That's a good question. I guess we are not really obligated to spend the whole 25K. I think we should. Um, the I, I think it's a matter of perspective. I don't think we had that low of a turnout considering how the context, gas prices, very tight timing, not a lot of projects. So it's we in any way we would have as much donors as rounds with 50, 60, 100 projects. But that's really up to us for to decide. I sent the results scaled up. So scaled up means that taking up the whole 25K matching pool on the private group that we have. Just doing it private because that's not information that should be public. But if anyone is curious about that, I'll be happy to share it privately. But yeah, again, that's a question for us to answer, whether we want to spend the whole 25K or not. And just very quickly for what we have to do, I noticed we didn't publish anything regarding the closing of the round. I think our last tweet is from 2 days ago, so maybe that's something to do this week or early next week. And yeah, maybe I don't know if I have a few updates, but I don't know if that's if I should go ahead right now.
I have a couple of perspectives on this. One, I think it would be a mistake for us to back out some of the money that we said we were going to allocate as part of this. It just, yeah, it's I think it's bad practice, even though it's tempting. But I think, yeah, it's kind of maybe we didn't promise anything to Gitcoin, but we promised something to the community, and yeah, just I think this whatever we would save, we would lose and potentially it's risky to do stuff like that. So, I do think one of the things you'll see in the projects that I'm proposing, one of the first ones is conviction voting, just like cleaning all that up and just making sure that all of our documentation is done and that we have a very clear process and an explanation for how we're doing public goods funding going forward, and that it's really driving it to this program. So I think that that's like a first priority project, and you'll see in this write-up that I'll be sending out next week. And it's I think it's wrapped into kind of like what are our takeaways from this program, right? How often do we want to run these programs? How big do we want it to be, et cetera? So I'm hoping that actually, if we can, I'll send this out on Monday, but it may be that one's just so obvious that we'll be able to actually start to add tasks immediately into the current backlog for this sprint and maybe even start jumping on that. So, okay, so Isaac, do you want to add the closing tweet thing in to the tasks here? I'm gonna do more kind of facilitation. Can you actually just start to update? Yeah, that'd be great. So that's one thing. And the matching boost, that includes any subtasks for getting, so we're waiting right now also for Angela to give us the addresses of the NFT holders, right? Does that need to be specified, or is that just built into the matching boost thing?
I can put more detail into the task, but I consider all of that to be part of it.
Okay. Okay, so one thing that I think is good, and this will be part of the Monday thing, but I think we know that we need to do this, is update the community on the conviction voting shutdown. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that actually either just passed or will pass in the next couple hours, the next hour or two.
Yeah, there's just very quickly. There's about 5 hours left, but it's going to pass.
Yeah. So I think that's something that we should add in onto that TV shit. Okay. Um, okay, I just have to share one little joke, one little funny anecdote, just because you said shit. Back when I was working at Microsoft, they were trying to figure out how to like motivate people to really dig in and give it their all, and so they developed this program that was called the Ship It Award. And so every time anybody who was involved in shipping a product got this award. And so the guy who was the vice president, who was like one of the big mucky mucks at Microsoft, I think he was kind of not that into it and thought that this was kind of bullshit. So the email that he sent out had the title Microsoft Shit It Awards. So there you go. All right. How about with the conviction voting? Is there anything else on that front? Okay, we'll wait until Monday. You guys can take a look at the proposal, this project that I'm kind of wrapping all that stuff into, and then we can maybe move really quickly on Monday for that.
I think it's worth if we work. I don't know, maybe just like a document or something, to see. I don't know, either a document, a meeting, whatever, to see what are we going to do with the governance process overall. Like Nate said that there's a few people wanting to get proposals up, and so do we direct them to the do we ask them they wait for the next grants round? How do we handle them putting votes on Tau voting, etc., etc.?
I think that's part of this whole process. Nate, can you just give us not all the details, but like who specifically you think is interested in making proposals?
Yeah, the token utility group has shown interest that they need what they wanted to do is get at least six grand to actually execute on everything, and so they wanted to put up a proposal directly to the TEC if they couldn't get enough funds within this grant round. The bonding curve research group is also interested in going for another round of funding. And then I think there was one more that was interested in doing another round of funding. Perhaps give me 1 second.
I know the bonding curve groups wants to, because the proposal was supposed to go in 2 parts, and so they are about to run out of funds, and they want to post the next section, the next part.
Okay. So is it really just those 2, Nate, or do you think there might be a third?
I think there's a third, but I'm going through my messages right now.
Okay.
It's a new project, not a part of the grant program round.
I mean, yeah. I think so. This is part of what I'm proposing for next week. Okay, you know what? We're just dancing around this, and I think that we're dancing around this thing. It's something that's kind of urgent, so maybe I should just explain what I'm proposing, and then break it out into some specific things. I mean, here's the bottom line. I feel like, this move to the grants program is part of a deliberate strategy to make the TEC's public goods funding more sustainable. Also, I think that there are a large number of the projects that were funded that are just simply not mature enough to. This is a different point, but I think that one of the key things that we as a commons and as the coordinators for that commons need to really think about is, if we keep allowing large-scale access to the common pool before we've built up the utility, this is the same thing we've been facing for this past almost a year now, is this growing realization that we're going to drain the pool. And I think that, our desire to like give people open access to things like this, we can't stop it, I guess, like anybody can do a DAO vote, but personally, as a token holder, I'm not going to be voting for those things. And I think that's where we're going to, is that just like in practice, there will probably be some token holders who will say no. We've got to conserve, and that the way forward is to really drive everything through this grants program where it's going to get matched. And so, at least for the short term, I feel like this is just something that may not be popular with a number of people, and including people we really care about. But I think we have to start taking a hard stand here if we really want this thing to survive, and if we really want to build the utility and income that will allow us to give a lot more money down the road. So, not a very popular thing to say, but I think that so that's the first step, is getting some consensus on this, getting some input on that. And it's not just this group here, it's kind of the broader crew, but and then like there may be some token holders like myself who will probably start to say no on these kinds of votes. But I think that if we just start doing that without signaling to everybody that that's likely to happen, and that that's part of a deliberate strategy, then I think we're just going to be wasting a lot of people's time and create ill will. So I'll stop there, and I would like to open it up.
Can I? Yeah, I definitely do agree. Because you can't say yes to everybody, because if you say yes to everybody, then you'll be left with nothing. But I also like to know, what would be the new general criteria for saying no? Because I think that will kind of be important. Or is there just no criteria? Or are we just going to put the word out to say we're not going to be easily giving out funds to projects and kind of leave it as that? Are we going to be more transparent with our criteria for what we would accept and what we would deny?
I don't think anybody can say no. I think that, when it comes to right now, we're getting rid of conviction voting, so all we have is TAO voting. TAO voting has a high risk, high penalty with the token lock, that you have to lock 200 TEC to even make the proposal, and then it's not guaranteed that you're going to pass it or not. I think the big thing is that people are free to use the TAO voting process. This is why it's kind of different. This is meant for smart contract upgrades and not for passing funds from the common pool. Is that this is kind of a one and done deal. If you fail, you lose the 200. You have to propose again. But there needs to be, if we're going to have this set up for governance for the common pool, there needs to be more active token holder signaling about what is going to be funded and what is not, and maybe just simplifying the communication space for that. Maybe even using Snapshot or some type of voting system that we can just say, hey, token holders, here are a bunch of projects that are interested. Let me see where your thinking is in terms of your priorities, because we can say no to projects right now, but it doesn't, we don't have that authority to say no. They can propose, but we need better signaling from token holders to suggest that, hey, your proposal is not going to pass in its current form, or it's our current priority set. And that needs to be facilitated somehow. And I think that, yeah.
What's wrong with the forum?
The forum's great. I think that it just not enough token holders engage with the proposal. Like if token utility group, for example, wants to put up a proposal for whatever, what is $6,000, like they can go on there. They might get 2 or 3 people who say maybe not, but it doesn't, it doesn't give them a definitive no for like the outlook of whether or not it gets funded, because in their eyes, this is something that they definitely want to do. And so, it's really hard for, them to go through that process. And I think just having more engagement or simplifying the engagement between token holders and people who are wanting to share ideas or something that needs to get funded would make things a lot smoother than the forum.
But if token holders aren't going to the forum, how are we going to get them to go to Snapshot? Snapshot.
I mean, I don't disagree. I just think that we just need better token holder engagement in general. That's
okay, but that's a different issue, and we could maybe just put that issue aside. I honestly think I agree with you, Nate. By the way, I think it's going to be very hard for proposals to go through, because the people who are proposing are going to need to get support from token holders. They're going to need to post their proposal on the forum. I mean, we keep that process. I'm assuming we wouldn't allow a proposal. Well, and culturally, we wouldn't allow a proposal to go onto vote before it's posted on the forum for some number of days. I'm assuming we keep that same process. Otherwise, we could. I'm not exactly sure what we could do, but maybe like force a way to cancel that proposal that hasn't gone through the correct procedure of getting feedback from the community for 5 days or 7 days or whatever the number is. And if the person's not getting a lot of engagement on the forum, that should be an indication to them that they need to go out and seek support. They can, try to find ways on Twitter or on our Discord server to promote their project to get support. But if they don't get support, then they probably shouldn't put their proposal on chain. If they're not getting support in the forum, or they're not getting support from token holders who say they're going to back it, then that's a pretty clear indication that they shouldn't put it on chain. And I would say a guide, like laying all of this out clearly, I think, in terms of the risks that people would take by proposing something that they don't think will get backed. I think we can provide like a guide, but I don't think we should, in light of what Gideon said as well, make it our mandate in the short term to get proposals passed on ABC. I think we should focus on the matching rounds, and certain projects will have enough token holder support and can post on the forum, can whip up token holder support, and can get their projects passed.
Yeah, I think over the long run, this will just pretty much be a change in the covenant to separate or to describe a separation between the types of funding, the opportunities for funding, and how to deal with them. So in the covenant, we would probably state something like the common pool is for XYZ, probably something closer to operations, which is what we have to spend it right now anyways, because that's the only source for operations to be funded for right now. And then make it explicit that projects seeking funding to develop TE stuff should go to the grants program. But that's going to be a very slow process, because we have to first really establish ourselves as really establish the grants program and run it for a few rounds and see how it goes and perfect it so that people can for sure know that that's a reliable source of funding. Because right now for 25K, no project has gotten really enough to actually work. And so ideally, we would provide that way to have enough funding to develop something without having to take a bit from the grants program and then come back here to ask for the rest of the funding.
Yeah, I'm going to keep pushing on this. I feel like we've already made the switch. I feel like this move to the Allo protocol and to quadratic voting, this is a way for the TEC to resume, because we did kind of stop doing public goods funding for a little while there, while we were really worried about our budget. Now suddenly we're thinking that we can start spending again. And it's just not true. I mean, it's really not true. We didn't magically solve we didn't solve our utility, we didn't solve our income problem. We are still running out of funds. And, you know, I think that we all of us need to take this extremely seriously. And the community needs to understand that if we keep spending, you know, the way that we're spending, we it's like killing the goose that laid the golden egg. So I think that we may be doing some harm to some medium-sized projects that could use some slightly larger scale funding. But I think that we're making the move over to the grants program is a strategic decision that says we are not a source of large scale funding for token engineering right now. We will hopefully get to that once we figure out a way to generate some income. But we are not a source for large-scale funding other than the core operations of the merged entity, which is the Academy and the Engineering Commons. And then we need to do that in order to build up the Commons so that it can actually have, you know, to build up our common pool again. So I think that this is not a very popular thing to say, but like personally, I mean, I mean, if I have to do this myself, I mean, I kind of don't want to do this, but like, and my guess is that we'll probably find other token holders feel the same way, is that we have to start clamping down on it and have a nice outlet that we can explain to people that's like, this is what this looks like. This is the size of stuff you can expect. But I think if we don't start proactively setting those expectations right now, we're going to damage our reputation, or we're going to run out of funds. That's my view.
So I'm just going to chime in super quickly. Yeah, I do like what you're saying. The one thing I think we need to be, the two things I'm thinking of is like, first, phrasing that the common pool will be used only for operations, I think would be not successful. The common, like the common pool was created by people who are expecting to support public goods, token engineering public goods, so education, research, and open source software. And so I think that they, you know, maybe it's not exactly our decision to have to close off a channel, but I think it makes sense where we are that it's actually very hard for people to pass proposals for direct funding from the TEC, and that there may be a case or two where the token holders support the passing of a proposal. But I think that rather than saying it's not possible, you know, we can maybe message that we're switching to matching funds grant proposals until we have enough revenue to go back to direct grant giving, but that if there is enough token holder support for a proposal to pass, it will pass.
Yeah, I should clarify what I'm saying. The common pool, I guess what this is saying is putting our public goods funding on an actual budget, just like the operations, right? So that it's predictable and we know what our spend down is going to be, right? And so in this case, what I'm actually proposing is that we move to 20K a quarter, so basically 80K, 80,000 DAI a year. And we, I won't go into all the details because that you'll get on Monday, but yeah, it's just like, it's a budget, and you know, it's not a budget that's going to fund huge projects. We just can't do that anymore. But it is, you know, it's a pretty good chunk of our remaining budget. You know, like it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty aggressive spend down. You know, for an entity that is running out of funds. So it's still a pretty good commitment. It's just trying to make those funds stretch further by using matching. So, and yes, I think, like it's not, we can't control who submits a DAO vote, but I think that given the likelihood, I'm just saying that given the likelihood of success of going the DAO route, I think we could end up doing a lot of damage if we aren't proactively and honestly telling people what the odds are. And that's not really what it's designed to do. Like there may be some exceptional things where we can really rally the community if it's really important to do like a major project like that. But like, if you're submitting, for a 6K proposal to DAO voting, it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, it's probably not going to pass. Like 6K, you're not going to get a lot of token holders showing up for a 6K proposal, and you may lose your 200 TEC. So I'm just saying, I think that this is part of what we have to explain. It's kind of this reality.
Yeah, just very quickly, I guess, again, I agree in principle. I think, but I think it's really, really important that we think of the grants program as we sort of initially tried to, and it's moving away from common pool spending to raising funds. And I know we are raising funds for other stuff, but there's grants programs are a bit different because it's pretty much regranting, and there's a bunch of projects that would probably support more the grants program than other initiatives. And if you look at the whole space, everyone that set up some sort of grants round in some way or another usually gets funding. And I think we can aim at more than 20K with I, well, I don't want to say it because we sure don't know, but just looking at how this last round went for the featured rounds and Gitcon themselves and also other rounds, I think we can expect to have more than 20, and we probably don't have to rely on the common pool, which is what I would really want to happen.
Yeah, we can follow up on that part later. I'm focusing more on the kind of the big picture, right? Which is there's a shift that's happened, and it's cool. It's exciting. Like rather than viewing this as a negative thing, this is a great thing. Quadratic funding is awesome. Being connected with like all this stuff is awesome. It's just there are a few players out there, like the bonding curve group who genuinely have like a need in it stuff, and they have some funding needs that I think are going to outstretch what we are going to be able to easily provide just through grants program. So I think it's just this is a communications challenge, and we got to do it quick. So I think let's move on. I will send this out on Monday. We can get some more feedback on the size and that, but I think this is our next project. Going back to the backlog, are there other things that are still out there? I just want to, let's just spend the next 7 minutes and see if there's anything else that we need to put in there that doesn't fit into these other projects. And if not, then I think we should call the meeting early today. Okay, let's go by functional area. Are there any comms things aside from the wrap up tweet? Are there any other comms things that we need to do? Nate for SPI, is there anything that's out there that needs to be done on that front? Comms?
Not at the moment, no.
We may want to consider taking something that's already on the backlog into this sprint. I don't know if we want to, but there's the closing blog post and the feedback form.
Yeah, why not? Seems like you're saying those are in the next sprint, but pull them into this one?
If we want to, and if we find someone that can take on it during this week, why not?
Let's do it. Let's
I
do
mean,
it.
I can take the closing blog post for the round and put it into the sprint. I don't mind writing that up.
I can take the guarantee feedback form, but I would need to work with NT to, specifically, ask the correct questions and things like that. But yeah, I can take that one.
Well, Bear said he was going to do it. It's fine if we switch it, or do
Oh,
you
okay.
want to do it, Bear? Or
If Bear said he's going to do it, then yeah, I'll work alongside Bear with regards to that one.
okay, if you want, I can put you on the closing content, and you work with Marathon Mind to see what to do. It doesn't have to be like a super complex thing. Just letting people know how that it finished already.
Could you in that task could you put the link to like the graph and bar charts that where how many people submitted funds and stuff like that, because I think that would be quite cool to kind of include in that.
Which charts?
You provided, I think, the link last week with regards to I probably need to scroll up in the chat, but you
Okay, yeah.
provided the link to I think it's the Meta manifesto or things like that, so to where you can see how many people submitted donations to TEC projects and things of that nature.
Okay, cool.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still down for taking on the form. No problem.
Should we do it for this week, or do we want to wait for the upcoming sprint?
I mean, I don't have a preference like to actually finish it, but whenever it's more appropriate, I don't know if we want it to after the closing blog post or after the matching boost or after the payouts or before. I don't really know when would be more appropriate, but I'm still down to do it.
Just thinking about it, I think if we can get everything lined up and ready to go, all the questions and stuff like that, but it does feel like we should probably wait until after we send out the payouts to see how satisfied people are. Do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, our satisfaction rates will go way higher, I think. Okay, so let's see. I think this is it. I mean, there will be some more stuff early next week, and maybe we'll be able to pack some in. But this sprint's going to end pretty soon, right? So it's going to end on the 15th. So I think we've got, yeah, I think we're good. And now we just need to concentrate on the next sprint and like making sure that we get that one packed.
Just before we close up, I just saw a message from Gitcoin. Let me put this task. So I don't know if you guys know about the hypercerts they introduced on the past round. I'm not really sure what is it 100%, but it's like a certification for grantees about their grants project. I don't know, but they are now giving all of the feature rounds the facility to provide hypercerts for all projects, and so they asked us to email or to get in touch with the grantees. So yeah, just adding that and letting everyone know.
Okay. Anything else before we close up? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, hey, this is a little. I feel like this is a little bit rough trying to get this backlog, but I think that's partially because this is the first time we've done this. Also, because we don't have the big backlog built up. I think in future it'll be more about like going through the backlog and deciding what we move forward. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for your time. You've got an extra hour back today, so enjoy it. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Gideon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.